So, being the big music guy that I am, musical biopics can be a bit hit or miss for me. You would think being a lover of music and also loving films, by combining the two, it would be like the perfect match, but usually, you know what, not really. Last year we had Bohemian Rhapsody, which was honestly quite mediocre, and the director of this film, Dexter Fletcher, did end up taking over the final few weeks of footage for the Bohemian Rhapsody film after Bryan Singer got, thrown out because of so many reasons. It's not really worth getting into. There was also Straight Outta Compton a few years back, which again wasn't really that great, honestly, mostly because of how glorified everything seemed. These kind of films just typically focus on the big, huge moments that these artists had. They quite often weren't the greatest people. They had problems in their life, but instead of digging deeper into that, they typically gloss over those kind of things. I actually think Love and Mercy and Walk the Line are the better musical biopics that I've seen. I've not seen every single one, obviously, but out of the ones I have seen, these are two of the ones I think are some of the best because they actually dig deeper into the personal lives of the artists involved. And of course, you know how troubled and problematic Johnny Cash was, and the film didn't really hold that back. Of course, general audiences aren't really there for that though. They just want to see the glam side of everything, the huge musical moments that they remember and they love. But with this being a film that Elton John was involved in fact, they didn't really do that. The film is actually centered around a therapy session where Elton is talking about all of the things that went on in his life, and he's kind of like going back to some of his worst moments and also some of his best moments too. I do feel as though they probably could have done this a little better though, because there are some like lengthy periods in the film where you actually don't go back to see Elton John in the therapy session, and it kind of makes you forget that actually this is him telling the story as opposed to the film just doing the story as it is. But considering he was telling the story, it didn't matter too much that they did kind of gloss over things or they rushed a few things along, especially at the start. I mean, before you know it, we're seeing Elton John in the studio making music and, signing record deals, and he's off to America touring around the world, that kind of thing. It did really kind of rush quite quickly into that. But we did see some cool stuff as he was a child, some interactions between him and his father that were really quite poor. And then later on in life, his father did end up having more children, and he sees that his relationship with his father was completely awful, and somehow his father has managed to have these new children that he absolutely adores and cherishes. And Elton is just confused as to why this was the case. This makes you see Elton spiral out of control, do all kinds of drugs. He has a pretty poor relationship in his own personal life as well, and it's quite abusive. And it's actually all told pretty well. Like I say, the therapy session is kind of hit or miss at times. I think Taron Egerton's performance, though, is very, very good throughout. And one thing I wasn't expecting, actually, was this film to be more of a musical than it was just showing the actual songs performed live or whatever, just like it was in Bohemian Rhapsody. There are quite a lot of original songs in this film, and not only that, but Taron Egerton is the one singing and performing every single one of them. This was quite the surprise to me going in, because typically I try my best to avoid trailers or any kind of info before going into a film, because I just feel as though that's the best way to do it. Same with reviews and that kind of stuff. But it was really quite refreshing to see these original songs from Elton John transformed and performed completely differently, and new elements were added in throughout the film, some orchestral moments too. It just gave it this really fresh feel throughout. I mean, it was really quite nice to see that they went all out with this. It wasn't just your standard, typical, formulaic biopic for me. Doesn't mean to say that every song throughout was great or all of the performances were great. I mean, there were points where it kind of felt like the timeline of things didn't really work out. Like, I'm not entirely sure when Elton John wrote Saturday Night's Alright for Fighting, but according to this film, he knew it when he was like a teenager, and then they perform it, and then it kind of transitions into him being an adult. For the scene itself, it works so damn well, like the way they choreographed everything. There was so much going on with the dancing. It was all like in one long shot too. It was just so well crafted, but just for the actual like story of Elton John, it just kind of felt a bit flimsy. Like, did it really match when he wrote the song and that kind of stuff? Similarly as well with how he came up with the song Your Song. I mean, I don't think it was quite how they showed it in the film. But again, you kind of have to take it with a pinch of salt with these kind of films, because they do this type of thing where they glamorize things, and quite often songs are just made up when you're just sat in your bedroom. It's not like as huge and as grandiose as these films would like you to believe. But like I say, it wasn't really that big of a problem. Like, it generally felt really good to watch all of these songs come to life the way they did because of how well they were performed. Taron was really good in his role here. And considering the type of person Elton John was, and how camp and how like over the top a lot of his live performances were, and how his career was quite similar to that too, this film made perfect sense for what they were going for here and how it compared to what Elton John was like in his heyday. But I just really liked how full of life this film was. I mean, it probably could have gotten darker at points. Like, Elton did like sink to some really low levels, and they did show those parts, but I definitely think they could have really dug deeper into that. But generally, this film was just bursting, filled with so much joy, and I really enjoyed it for that. The performances from other actors in this film were really good as well. Bryce Dallas Howard was very good. Rob Stark was in this film. He was very good. And Billy Elliot, the actor that played Billy Elliot on all those years ago, was in this film as Elton John's like best friend. He was a good role in this film too. In terms of other issues I had, it definitely seems to be a big cliche through these films that the personal manager or whatever, the kind of guy that's pulling all the strings, is always this like evil person that's actually bad for the musician. Look, again, Elton John was involved in this film, perhaps that was the case, but it's just becoming so typical for these types of films. Like, even Bohemian Rhapsody and Straight Outta Compton also had this, and I just find it hard to believe that these personal managers are as bad as these films make out they are. Some of the transitions into songs were kind of awkward as well. I mean, there was this one point in the film where he's just randomly singing with this woman, and then the next scene he's marrying her, and then the scene after that is them getting divorced. I guess it showed how impulsive and how the decisions he made weren't always for the best, and actually, kind of hit you quite quickly with that montage. But at the same time, I probably would have preferred to see why exactly he got married to a woman, what exactly his motives were there, and you don't really know why. It tends to be these very important details that these musical biopics often leave out, and I don't know if that's due to the decision made by, Elton John himself because he is involved in this film, or it's made by the filmmakers. They don't want to go into detail with this kind of thing. I don't really know what it is, but these are the types of things that really could be delved into quite a bit more, and they just never really are. Instead, we get countless amount of scenes of Elton taking drugs, kind of going off the rails, which is exactly what he did. It's not bad that they did this, but they could have replaced a few of these scenes with some more deeper personal moments that would have been quite a bit more interesting, because we know just by watching his character in this film that he was already on drugs. We don't need that many scenes seeing that. But generally, this was actually pretty damn good. I liked it quite a lot. I had a lot of fun with it. I'd definitely watch this again because of just how full of life it was, as I've already said. The musical numbers were pretty damn on point as well when he's in the Troubadour for the first time, and, he rises up and the crowd are rising at the same time. And the Rocketman montage was really good as well. I'd say the editing throughout was pretty good as well. The choreography, like I say, was very good throughout. It was a lot of fun. I liked it quite a bit. I'm going to go 7 out of 10. Let me know your thoughts if you have watched this film, if you liked it as much as me, or you liked it less, or if you think it's even better than what I say. Let me know. Thank you for doing my review. Have a good day, and tell me your favourite musical biopic in the comments. Thank you for listening. Bye.